Hello YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and we are here to bring you the beginning part of a what if for the Easter special called What If Deku Had Rago. Now, this is a what if based off of a manga series called Black Torch. A link in the description below will be provided to the source material so that you can see it for yourself. Now then, with that being said, I do hope you're enjoying the Easter special and all my other vids and such. So, yeah, with all that said, before we get started, edit. Now then, before we get into the error before, like, the current timeline of My Hero, we gotta go back a bit. For starters, the world was filled, well, first filled with a supernatural kind of energy that was related to these creatures that were referred to as Monomoke. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Alright, but for simple terms, we'll call them yokai. Okay? Or whichever. See how it works. But these beings were considered monsters, yokai, and etc. across the world in different countries. These entities were of supernatural origin and had two distinct traits. They were filled with energy, but to maintain that energy, they had to make sure that they were fed. And the second thing about them is if they wished to increase their own power, they required them to either eat humans or their own kind as a way to increase their own power. A war broke out between humans and Monomosuke, who were attempting to destroy all of humanity. This was stopped, and numerous things were done to help cover up what happened. Of course, it wasn't easy, but then again, and some monsters attempting to kill all humans I would imagine it wouldn't be easy to cover that up. But either way, it did. The leader of these Monomosuke was a individual called Amagi. He ended up dying. Though as time went on, the attacks from these beings onto humans caused something that they believed that their constant attack on humans as a way to feast on them and gain even more power caused them to evolve through a supernatural gene known as the quirk gene. This obviously caused some problems for them, including when the Age of Heroes came about. The organization that was originally made to deal with them wasn't going to deny the help that they were given, but they also had to deal with some problems as well. Sometimes humans, due to their mutation type quirks, were hard to distinguish against the Monomosuke. With that being the case, they had to be very careful. And during the early years of the Age of Quirks, a man appeared, one with the ability to take quirks for himself, stockpiling them to become what could be considered the most powerful individual. As this organization was meant to fight the Mononosuke caught him in their eyes, they tried to get rid of him, seeing him as a definite threat to the rest of the world. However, he he was too strong. And as retaliation, he destroyed the organizations across the world and then returned to Japan, using his power and influencing others as a way to rule Japan from the shadows. This was the prime error of All for One. After this, the Mononosuke were impressed but also terrified of this being called All for One. But there was once an individual, a Mononosuke, that was unlike any other. One who didn't need to constantly feed in order to maintain his power. In fact, it was said his power was inexhaustible. This was a surprisingly powerful cat who was called the Black Star, Rago. In the past, due to certain events, he bonded with a human. And as that human growed old and died, they were expecting Rago to be released, but instead he just disappeared from the world. As time went on, and the actions of My Hero Academia before the canon involving All for One's brother and his successors, as the quirk One for All has been passed down, continued. Until we get to the age of quirks where it is where All Might is currently around and everything is looking brighter as a young boy with green hair is born, though something is different about him. There is a black sun mark on his chest. They figured that it might have to do with his quirk, as when they tried to examine it, this odd black flame came from it. And this black flame turned into a black cat with a white mark on its back, matching the black mark on the child's chest. This cat, as you may have guessed, is Rago. Upon the individual he was bonded with when the human died, whose name was Jiro, which I'm trying to keep that name out of this because of, but as when he died, he ended up in a type of limbo until currently when they were reincarnated. Or at least his previous partner was, and he was just along for the ride. Once this happened, a surge of power could be sensed from the Mononosuke throughout the entire Japan and such. As the older ones recognized this feeling the as the one who could be considered the king of the Mononosuke, Rago. As time went on, they did try to look for him. However, it seems as though Rago has found a way to mask his presence, as a way to help keep him hidden, as well from the boy he's bonded to. This boy being Izuku Midoriya. Growing up, they figured that the cat that came out of Izuku was part of his quirk. As Izuku grew up, he found that he was able to communicate with animals. And yes, this is not actually a quirk. This is actually an ability that the main character from Black Torch had even before he bonded to Rago. So yeah, not a quirk, just something he inherited from his past life. As this wasn't the same as Anima's quirk. This wasn't something for him to control animals. This allowed him to have a back and forth conversation with them. As he became quite fond of multiple animals. which somewhat scared his parents for him being around them, including snakes and other animals that he frequently talked to. One time, as his dad was going for a quick visit overseas, he decided to bring his wife and son along. As they went overseas to America, Izuku's father had to take care of some business, while Inko brought Izuku over to a playground. While they were there, Izuku was playing as he bumped into a blonde girl. This girl had horns coming out of her head and hooves on her feet. This being the girl from Class 1B, Tony. And yes, that's her name. Don't ask me why it just is. As Izuku offers to help her back up since he knocked her over with a bump, they they ended up playing and became friends. As they introduced themselves, we see Izuku introducing Rago to her, as he's impressed that he's able to produce a adorable cat. As the cat said, "I am not adorable!" As yes, this cat can talk. Surprising her, as Izuku just laughs. And they continue to keep playing for a couple of days at the park while Izuku's father was dealing with some stuff for his business. Once it was all taken care of, he was luckily able to say goodbye. And they promised that they'll meet again. As that happened, they ended up leaving on their plane back to Japan. Sometime later, as Izuku is brought to the doctors to get a full examination for his quirk, as he now turns 5. With this, the doctor said that he doesn't quite understand. That according to these tests, he doesn't have a quirk. But most likely, it has to do with some form of mutation with his quirk that's making it harder to register. Or at least harder for us to detect it. As they do talk, they then determine the name of what they would label this quirk, as Izuku asked if it could be called Rago, pointing at the cat that he is holding in his arms. With this, Izuku's so-called quirk is registered. As we then move on to the point where we see an individual with white hair walking down steps to a large white stone pillar with charms and spikes in it. This being an object known as a killing stone, meant to seal away powerful Mononoke. As this individual smirks, he examines the stone and feels something coming from it. He states, "Crafty Amagi. So I guess before you returned to face off with Rago in the last battle, you placed a portion of your power from all of our comrades you ate into this stone. And over these years, it's been amassing all the dispersed power that was let loose after you died. Best bet you tried to use it as a way of rebirth, hoping that one day you'd be freed. And even if you didn't remember, you would hopefully try to pick up where you left off." As his smirk left him. Following this, he states, "But I'm gonna need that power for myself." if that all for one guy's plan for the future works out, then that feeling of Rago's return, well, we'll need all the power we can get. And yours, as well as what he has planned, would be more than enough. As he smirks, performing some sort of ritual, releasing the massive amount of energy within the killing stone and devouring it. This individual's name is called Koga. He is a Mononosuke that aimed to be the king of his kind. To do that, he would require to eat rago to gain his unexhaustible power. Though, currently, he just ate a massive amount of energy that was made from his old ally that betrayed him and their comrades, who ate literally 1,000 of his own kind to gain enough power to fight Rago. Of course, he was more or less throwing this energy all over the place, not being able to properly contain it. At least from what I saw, and it looked like a large mess of creatures he made just attacking everybody and everything. It, as he devoured it, he sent a text as a portal opens, this being Kurogiri. As he meets with All for One, he smirks, stating, "I got it. Did you already implant the quirk into the kid so that I don't accidentally kill him?" As All for One stated, "Yes, everything is prepared. He has no idea. Lucky for you, he's able to handle it without realizing what's going on." As he smirks, he states, "If this works, I think we both will get what we want." As we see All for One on a breathing apparatus hooked up to machines to help keep him alive from severe damage he took after the fight he had with All Might. As he stated, "Yes, with this, I believe, well, this will be a new era to come." As we see that they are looking at a monitor, this monitor being of a small child who has hands covering him, latched onto his arms, his sides of his torso, even some holding on to his head, this being a young Shigaraki. Rago sensed the energy that was just released and felt as though it was devoured. He recognized that level of power when he fought Amagi. Then, all of a sudden, it disappeared, as he was nervous about what that meant. As we look back to the League of Villains hideout at the time, we see an unconscious Shigaraki who has energy just leaking out of him, and it is starting to seal up into him. This being more or less Koga entering Shigaraki's body, and due to a quirk that All for One secretly gave him as a way to keep Koga from killing him by accident. They now have what they need. And the groundwork for future plans has now been set. As Rago was nervous from what he just felt, and the fact that it just disappeared, it didn't bode well. Normal Mononosuke couldn't hide their presence, especially one of that magnitude, without possessing something. Something like how he is with Izuku. Given this age of quirks, that could be extremely bad, depending on the individuals who are stuck together. As he now has to figure out a way for him and Izuku to survive what might be coming. Years go on, and as Izuku becomes a teenager, he learns better control over the power he shares with Rago, even producing a large black fist as he swings, which pretty much can destroy boulders. Restraining himself from practicing where people could see, he trains a lot in the woods. As he's been getting better and better, due to the reincarnation, the merger of their energies is far greater than what his previous host was. Rago is impressed with Izuku, as he's been progressing faster and faster. Though, always in the back of his mind, he was worried about that immense power that suddenly emerged and disappeared. With that, they just kept training, as the world of heroes kept on going, and Shigaraki was training as well, learning how to use the power he was given in order for a single goal. With all this, things were shaping up to turn out quite, well, destructive. And even if Rago has inexhaustible energy, that doesn't necessarily mean he can fire all the energy he wants at once. Think of it as a limiter of how much energy he can shoot out, even if it is a incredibly large amount. And without so many unknowns, he has to be very careful. With the training continuing, Izuku doesn't get bullied, as when he shows off his quirk in public, he just wears a type of covering of what seems to be black fire over himself, revealing a type of armor per se covering him, including a scarf that flows quite long and can be controlled to do all sorts of things, including cutting a number of trees in half. Powerful, yeah, pretty powerful. As this continues all the way up to the beginning of the anime of My Hero Academia. With that, we'll end this part of the What If here for part 0 of What If Deku Had Rago. With all that said, I do hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys later.